Everyone. The March 17th, 2026 regular council meeting is called to order at 4 o'clock. Council would like to acknowledge the Ucluelet on whose traditional territories the District of Ucluelet operates. Audience members and delegates are advised that this proceeding is being video recorded and broadcast on YouTube and Zoom, which may store data on foreign servers. Are there any late items? May I have a motion to adopt the March 17th, 2026 regular council meeting agenda as presented?
So moved.
Councillor Hoare, Councillor Mafty, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. There are 2 sets of meeting minutes for adoption. Are there any errors or omissions on any of these minutes? Seeing none, I'll move that the minutes of February 10th, 2026 regular council meeting be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. And I will move that the minutes of February 24th, 2026 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as presented. Councillor Mafty seconds, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. We have 2 delegations on the agenda today. The first delegation to present is from the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District regarding annual financial presentation. Mr. Sayand, and I believe Terry Fung will be on Zoom.
Yes.
Perfect.
Great,
Well,
thank you.
Welcome.
And thank you very much for the invitation. I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to kick us off. And then Daniel will jump in. Looks like I have you in the middle of my slides. Hold on one sec. It always does it on the wrong screen. Hold tight. Let's do. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much for the invitation. We are here today to present the 2026 to 2030 draft financial plan for the ACRD. The plan is available on the ACRD website, and it is a 5-year plan, just as the district prepares as well. And it does have our services budgeted independently for expenditures, revenues, transfers to and from services, and we have to be adopted by March 31st. So you guys are actually our last presentation of our long road show out to community members, and we'll be looking to adopt the bylaw next Wednesday, March 25th. In a regional district, our services are independent. We cannot transfer revenues or expenditures between service areas. So Ucluelet Fire Service cannot transfer money over to a parks area in Banfield, say. So we end up with a whole bunch of mini budgets and that were combined to make one package. The allocation of these expenditures includes staff salaries and benefits. So it's quite the network of figuring out work plans and allocation of staff time as well as expenditures across these services. To develop the financial plan, we take the operational costs of our existing services, as well as we are continuing to implement the 2024 to 2027 strategic plan, which I'll touch on shortly. We talk about things in terms of proposed initiative cases or PICs that the board considers are kind of business cases that we talk about at the beginning of our budget season. We have asset management plans and infrastructure gaps in nearly all of our services that we are continuing to strategize ways to close those gaps. And looking to adopt a plan that will include the allocation of resources to set a plan for the year, but also give us a little bit of flexibility for things as they occur. This is just one of the many ways that we are engaging with the public. There is also, everything's available on our website. We created a new engagement hub on our Let's Connect platform with a separate way of engaging. And at any point, emails can be sent to budget@acrd.bc.ca. Our strategic plan has 4 focus areas, many initiatives underneath those, but the 4 main focus areas are planning for a resilient and livable region, managing our assets and infrastructure, partnerships and communications, and advocacy and service. So again, continuing to look at options to proceed with these initiatives as directed by the board. Our financial summary for this year is our budget's approximately 38.8 million. The requisition is about 13.6. So the tax component is 13.6 million. And when we talk about that, we do talk about the hospital district in that combo number because it is the same group of elected officials as well as taxpayers. So the increase overall is about 758,000 or 7.55%. General government does represent a fairly large increase this year, and we do have a couple of slides to touch on that later. We are anticipating approximately $18.3 million in grant funding, some of which is secured already, some of which is not. The projects that have not had secured funding will not proceed without receiving grants, so they will be removed from the budget if we are not successful. In terms of services that District of Ucluelet participates in, regional planning is a service that all electoral area and municipalities participate in and was a busy service in 2025. They completed the West Coast and Alberni Valley food security emergency plans. Those were done with grant funding and a great initiative that really ties in. It lives in regional planning, but really ties into that emergency planning aspect of things. There was also an agricultural water plan developed for the Alberni Valley. This year, the focus is on creating a community climate adaptation plan for the West Coast region, and that is in partnership with many entities out there, including Clayoquot Biosphere Trust, District of Tofino, District of Ucluelet. So going to be a good project for everyone to kind of work on. And we continue to look to do building energy audits to align with our climate action initiatives. Finally, there is applications that go through this regional planning service related to agriculture and other initiatives. And there was 14 subdivision referrals that were received in 2025. And planning staff anticipate a similar level for 2026. The next service we'll discuss is the Long Beach Airport. Very large service with many assets and many very aged assets. Some of the highlights from 2025 was that we were in a new agreement, memorandum of understanding with the Taloquiet First Nation. So a lot of great work being done on relationship building with Taloquiet. And that will continue into 2026 as we are working on our airport master land use plan. So lots of discussions, and there'll be community input throughout that process as well. They also, from a really kind of more bricks and mortar approach, the water system backup generation was installed. So the water system has now been updated from that wartime infrastructure to be something that our airport manager is very proud of and is providing much better service in the area. The passenger numbers were up about 15% to just over 11,000 passengers during the year. And the weather station building has been upgraded to make a future like office space for us because the airport staff right now are very cramped in the airport terminal building itself. So giving a bit more space for some functional meetings out on the coast for us. In 2026, we'll see some continued OLS clearing, so obstacle limitation surface clearing, which is the angle that needs to be maintained vegetation free. So that will be working with Parks Canada to get that done. And then there'll be some minor upgrades or maintenance done to like runway painting and those types of things. One thing that is on the horizon, but not really going to be actioned, I don't think this year, unless we happen to find a grant, is a design of a new airport terminal building. The size of the existing terminal building will not really allow us to increase passengers at this time. So looking for a grant to do the design work of that next phase and kind of are continually looking for grant opportunities for that, but no luck thus far. In terms of regional parks, I would say the focus of the service has turned back to the Alberni Valley. The last 5 years was really focused on getting that West Coast multi-youth path going, including the construction of that last near 1 kilometer section that was between the District of Ucluelet's end of their path and the the federal park. But now we are really looking at the Log Train Trail, which is located along Beaufort and Beaver Creek in the Alberni Valley. And they are wanting to move that to a multimodal, so permitting ATVs on that section. So continue to work on with the province on transitioning that asset. Lots of aged infrastructure again in our regional park services, as these many of these bridges and crossings were built by volunteers at numerous different places. So trying to figure out the role of the volunteer in maintaining this infrastructure moving forward. In terms of solid waste, again, very busy on the West Coast. We are continuing to look at ways of diverting landfill items and wanting to continue education. I know that there has been a lot of work done and to be done regarding wildlife interaction with your 3-stream bins. So that's definitely on the radar for this year. In terms of the compost that was developed at the organics that are being processed at the landfill and the compost that's being created, it was available for sale here in 2025, which was a great initiative, and continuing to work to refine that process. The landfill also received the first set of biosolids from the District of Tofino for their new wastewater treatment facility. And in 2026, we are looking to initiate the Design Operations and Closure Plan, the DOCP, that will indicate our costs moving forward. There's some significant leachate upgrades that need to be done and really need this engineering work to be done in advance to figure out the best approach of us keeping those costs down as best as we can. And also looking for opportunities for commercial organics diversion, as you guys have numerous commercial operations out on the coast. West Coast Transit is a large increase in your area again this year, as the service transitioned to BC Transit on March 1st last year. So a few more months of that system going to be in your 2026 requisition. Also, the service hours were increased at the beginning of 2026 to an additional 1,300 hours, and it's giving one schedule for each of the 7 days. So still some kinks that we're working out on this new system. For example, bus stops in Millstream have been a big point of discussion with our board that I think we've got some clarity on now. And looking to implement the bus stop shelter grant that we got. So going to be working with staff in District of Ucluelet, District of Tofino, and Parks to figure out the best location and design. I guess the location's been set. So the design of these shelters moving forward, as we received a federal grant for that. And I'm going to pass to Daniel to continue.
Thank you, Terry. So the regional district represents the District of Ucluelet as well as all the communities in the region with the North Island 911 Corporation. And what that company does is ultimately take care of dispatch and oversee everything related to 911 and dispatch calls and interface. So this year, the corporation is increasing their budget by 5%. And that 5% is going towards the further implementation of next-gen 911 technology. It is looking to bolster our capital reserves as well as to build in a general contingency. There's also contract negotiations, and so there are some increased staffing costs that are built into that 5%. The last year, we have been working on updating in preparation of next-gen 911, and that update is for all our GIS, so global information services. It's making sure that addresses are correct, length of driveways are accurate, and just so people know that next-gen 911 will unlock the full potential of your cell phone. So you'll be able to use video conferencing and whatnot when you're making your 911. And that's going to help dispatch in some cases as they build up their technology, assess the situation in a live way if they can have a video feed to help you. So it is quite a leap from just that classic phone call. Next slide, Terry. Emergency planning partnerships. So the ACRD does not provide emergency planning services to Ucluelet. However, we do partner on a number of different services. Just recently, a few weeks ago, we were all sandwiched in the district of Tofino, working on some training together, which went really well. And the building of those relationships is vital when we do activate any emergencies, whether you're activating and we're supporting, or whether we're activating and you're supporting. That said, Terry did touch on some of the updates that we have done. So the Food Security Emergency Needs Assessment and Livestock Emergency Plan was completed in 2025, and that is a new requirement under the updated provincial legislation. And this year, we are looking to complete our West Coast Emergency Cultural Awareness and Safety Plan. And that's being done in coordination with almost all the nations in the regional district, as well as local governments. Next slide, please. Mount Underwood was our largest activation for emergency operations this year, and it had us operating for several weeks. We were blessed by the fact that even though our integrated structure with the city of Port Alberni was overwhelmed by the size, we did end up getting quite a bit of support from across the province. So our EOC had members of EMCR. We had Comox Valley Regional District, Courtenay, City of Nanaimo, Strathcona, Cowichan Valley, a number of private contractors, and all the way up into the Lower Mainland and Kelowna that sent staff to help bolster our EOC operations. We also integrated with Huu-ay-aht First Nation, which was a first, and then we were in close collaboration with Tishat and Hoopichesset. So it was the closest we've had to a multi-agency activation, although not fully integrated. The highlights you can move on, Terry. Yeah. Thanks. General government services includes asset management, admin services, HR, information technology, records management. It does include the Alberni-Clayoquot Health Network, which is a contract that we hold, and Marcy DeWitt, I think, which is a resident here in Ucluelet, that coordinates a number of our discussions. We oversee bylaws and policies. Obviously, there's the classic office supplies. We do grant applications, and as Terry indicated, we're quite successful in the last few years, where the volume of funds received through grants is larger than our taxation. We do building maintenance and special projects. In 2025, some of the key projects that we were working on included inclusive regional governance, which is really looking to update legislation so we can have non-treaty nations as part of the board. We started work on equitable employment initiatives, and we completed per our policy and exempt compensation review. In 2026, we have a number of procedures and bylaws that we are looking to update. We have records management assessments that we are looking to implement. We have an agenda management software that we're going to be replacing to new software. We are going to continue with IT cybersecurity updates. We do have our QP collective agreement that's up for negotiation this year. And the board remuneration review committee also takes place. And so if you don't know, the way the board reviews their own remuneration is they have a panel that reviews it and makes recommendation on an election year. The board will make a decision on what to implement, but the implementation only takes place after the election. So whatever decisions they make for themselves, they potentially don't receive. It's going to be a new group that receives the outcome of that decision. Next slide. In 2026, we have a number of special projects that we have on the go. We have phase 2 of the feasibility, which is a business case for the development and land identification for a new ACRD administrative office and EOC. We have 3 different sections of work for primary care recruitment and retention initiative. We have our transportation committee is looking to advance with an alternative to Highway 4, and there'll be some communication coming to the district in the very near future around that. We are working with the Alberni Valley Drag Racing Association to find them a permanent home for Thunder in the Valley. Our Island Corridor Foundation feasibility, which was all about rail, has come to a conclusion early in 2026, and any next steps are going to be done in coordination with Tishat and Hoopichesset First Nations. We are doing a feasibility on the West Bamfield dock, and just so we understand, that feasibility is because Transport Canada is looking to divest of that dock, which has a huge impact on the West Bamfield community. Doing the feasibility doesn't mean that the ACRD takes it on, but it does identify the business case and the cost constraints around doing that. And all that information will be public. So if the ACRD working with Bamfield ends up saying no to taking on the dock, Transport Canada can then issue that publicly. So any public entity, third party could take on the dock. And what we want to make sure is that eyes are wide open in terms of the true cost of having that kind of facility. Then we also, similar to the work that we did with the Tlaloquit First Nation at the Long Beach Airport, we are looking to do a protocol agreement for the Alberni Valley Regional Airport. Next slide, please. We are continuing to work this year with the West Coast Multiplex. There's been many, many years of discussion. And last year, the association or the society asked for the ACRD to provide some staff support to look at the completion of design work, the planning work, the firming up of location, and of course, supporting with any public or private sector discussions or fundraising. So we have allocated some staff time to that. Next slide. Regional Hospital, as Terry indicated, it is a separate legal entity, but it is the same group of taxpayers and the same group of elected officials that make decisions. And so it's important for us to identify the role of that hospital district. We have completed the renovations and have finished paying the debt on the West Coast General Hospital in Port Alberni. This year, Island Health has identified $550,000 worth of minor equipment updates that will be seen across the region. Now, the ministry did not accept Tofino's General Hospital concept plan, which when it was announced, came as a surprise earlier this year to all of us. I think probably mostly to Tofino, who hadn't heard before it was shared to the regional board. And so needless to say, some of the work that the board has identified and I flagged earlier on recruitment and retention is developing a plan on next stages for this. The tax requisition is being held at 1.8 million. And so obviously the difference between the 1.8 and the 550,000 goes into reserves, and we hold those reserves until which time we have an investment to make. And we're hoping that investment will be to that Tofino General Hospital. Next slide, please. That's for you, Terry.
Okay, thank you. So this just summarizes the services that the District of Ucluelet participates in. We, on those columns to the immediate right of the service function, we talk about your share of those requisitions. These are just estimates at this point, as we are still waiting for the 2026 revised roll. However, they should be fairly close unless something crazy has happened in the region. So your big increases this year are West Coast Transit, as we spoke of, and then that general government. So that general government is a lot of those special initiatives that are being going to do this year. So such as that lobbyist efforts for the Highway 4 and the primary care recruitment and retention. A couple of funky ones on there. Your West Coast Emerge coordination proposed. That was a concept that was developed way back, I believe, in like 2014 or 15, that last year the board decided not to proceed with. And that was kind of to make an overarching emergency planning function over the West Coast Peninsula, because you have many emergency planning functions there. So that was reversed last year and will drop off after this year. And West Coast Multiplex, the money that was requisitioned in 2025 was not used. The staff time was not requested from the society, so no further additional requisition is required this year. And that is all. I am happy, or Daniel is happy, to answer any questions, and I will stop sharing so you can see.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Daniel. Questions from council? I can start us off. Since the hospital plan was rejected by the Ministry of Health, what's the next plan? What's the next step in that direction, in that plan?
So the plan itself wasn't rejected by Ministry of Health. It was rejected by Ministry of Infrastructure, which is the last say on releasing the funds. And so that was introduced early in 2025 or late 2024, the new ministry, headed by, I believe, Minister Bowen Ma. And so we haven't received the complete details as to why exactly they denied it, but they're the ones who denied it. So I'm not sure Josie was fully aware before the announcement either. So this year, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be bringing in a facilitator to help the West Coast and the Alberni Valley have discussions around the needs of the community, identify those gaps, and solidify a vision for moving forward. That vision may include identification of future properties to purchase, and as such, the board has directed that we look into creating a service, a regional service that would have the ability to buy strategic properties. Currently, we don't have that ability. And the other is to look at the Campus of Care business case. And so similar to what we've done for West Coast Transit, where after being told yes for many years and then no, we ended up implementing our own service before BC Transit then earlier this year took it over. We want to develop a business case that would look at what would it look like if we built a campus of care, and how would what the investment look like, how would it be run. So similar to what the District of Colwood did on the south of the island. And so we'll look at that business case and we'll be able to have that discussion hopefully at the end of the year with all of the interested parties, and with the province. And hopefully that helps bring them back on board. And if not, it gives us a decision as to whether we want to make that investment ourselves.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Councillor Noel?
Thanks, Daniel. And I love all your answers regarding the hospital. So, and that you haven't ruled out buying some property possibly. So I look forward to seeing what you're doing, and thank you. And Terry, a shout out to you. I hope you and your husband and the gang are doing well. I read something in the Westerly that you're going elsewhere. So I just really want to thank you for the years of service that you've done for the region here. And I wish you best in hopefully a quieter environment.
Thank you, Mako. I appreciate that.
Comments, questions?
For
Yeah.
those who don't know, Terry is going to be the Secretary Treasurer for School District 70. So she's not going far, but she won't be with us after 18 years. So that's we're at a staff level. We're saying we're going to be walking with one leg for a little while here until we find a replacement. But there's no replacing the knowledge that she has about our organization after 18 years. So yes.
Yeah, congratulations, Terry. That's awesome. Sad for the ACRD, but great for you.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to present.
All right, I see no other questions or comments, so you are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like.
I might take that drive home before it gets too dark, but thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for coming to do the presentation. Our next delegation is from British Columbia Council of Forest Industries regarding forestry is a solution. And I believe Kim Hackstead will be presenting by Zoom.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Do you want me to get started?
Sure, go ahead.
All right.
Welcome.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. As the Mayor said, my name is Kim Hackstead, and I'm the CEO of the BC Council of Forest Industries. And I'm here today to talk about a campaign called Forestry is the Solution, and to ask Council to consider endorsing it. And, I'm here from Council of Forest Industries, but just wanted to share some of the other partners we have in the Forestry is a Solution effort. It includes the Interior Logging Association, the Truck Loggers Association, the Private Forest Landowners Association, Resource Works, the BC Pulp and Paper Coalition, Woodlots BC, Interior Forest Labor Relations, the Council on Northern Interior Forest Employer Relations, Northwest Loggers, and the Independent Lumber and Manufacturers Association, as well as, the Alliance of Resource Communities, which a number of different communities are joining to help advocate for BC's natural resource industries. So British Columbia's forest sector has always been deeply connected to the strength of our communities. From the coast to the interior, forestry has helped build towns, support families, and power our provincial economy. For generations, communities across BC have relied on the jobs, businesses, and opportunities that come from our working forests. But as I'm sure you know, today our sector is facing really significant challenges. Global markets are volatile. US duties and tariffs continue to impact Canadian wood product markets. And here in BC, the regulatory environment has become increasingly complex. The result of that is that we're harvesting barely half of the annual allowable cut that has been determined to be sustainable in the province. That means lost jobs for an investment and economic activity in communities across BC. Despite those challenges, we do see tremendous opportunity ahead, though. And that's where the message of forestryasasolution.com comes in. Forestry doesn't need solutions, it is a solution. And what do I mean by that? Forestry is a solution for housing. You know, many of us live in wood framed homes. The world needs more affordable homes. British Columbia needs more homes, and we produce some of the most sustainable and low carbon building materials in the world, from dimensional lumber that builds, single family homes and 5 and 6 story buildings, to mass timber and engineered wood products that are allowing us to build even taller timber towers. Forestry builds homes, schools, infrastructure. Forestry is also a solution for our environment. Active forest management can help reduce the fuel loads on the forest floor and in the standing forest that contribute to catastrophic wildfires while supporting healthier and more resilient forests. And at the same time, wood products store carbon and provide renewable alternatives to more emissions intensive materials. We also see forestry as a solution for reconciliation. Today, more than 20% of forest tenure in BC is held by First Nations, including nations in your area like Huayet and Sashat, who have, thriving forestry businesses or businesses they'd like to see thriving, although it's very difficult right now. And we're seeing that in increased Indigenous ownership, leadership, and partnership across the sector. Really, forestry is a solution for our daily lives. We depend on essential forest products every day. As I mentioned before, the homes we live in, but also for paper bags and cardboard boxes, furniture and home decor, bioenergy, and good old toilet paper. Essential forest products are foundational for Canada and the world. That is why in British Columbia, when I think about resource development, I think about and not or. I don't think we need to choose between a strong economy and a healthy environment. I think we can and must do both. And I think in British Columbia, we're very good at that. And that's the spirit behind the Forestry as a Solution campaign. So we brought together a broad coalition of forestry companies, workers, community leaders, to give British Columbians an easy way to show their support for a strong and stable forest sector. So we have a website, forestryasasolution.com, where people can go and sign a petition or send a letter directly to provincial decision makers, and ask the government to help support the industry by improving access to economic wood supply, simplifying complex permitting processes without reducing environmental protection, but making them more manageable, strengthening partnerships with First Nations, and ensuring that BC's forest policies support long-term investment and global competitiveness. Local governments are super important in that. Communities, local communities like Ucluelet better understand than anyone the connection between a healthy economy and a healthy community. And that's why we're asking communities like Ucluelet to consider endorsing the campaign. We've got 12 communities that have come forward to support us so far. We're talking with a number more. We believe that when local councils endorse the campaign, it sends a message to provincial decision makers that communities want to see forestry succeed, not just for the industry, but for workers, families, and local economies. Ultimately, this campaign is about ensuring forestry continues to support communities for generations to come. And that's because, I think that when forestry is strong, communities are strong. And when communities are strong, British Columbia is strong. So with that, we respectfully ask Council to consider endorsing forestryasasolution.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
That's great. Thanks, Kim, for your presentation. I see in the correspondence that you sent me earlier, you sort of have 3 requests from us to officially endorse the Forestry as a Solution campaign. to encourage community members to visit your website to sign the petition and send a letter to their MLA, the Minister of Forests, the Premier, and the official opposition forest critic, and support staff to share information about forestry as a solution through our community's official communication channels. So thanks for those suggestions. And we don't make resolutions on the fly, but we can certainly talk to staff about what can be done in this regard for you.
Sure, absolutely. And we can also share resolutions that other communities have passed if that's helpful to you and staff as something to consider.
Sure, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Any questions from council? No, I don't see any. So thank you so much for your presentation.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a lovely rest of your council meeting.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business? No, seeing none, we'll move into bylaws. There are 3 bylaw items on the agenda today. The first bylaw is titled District of Ucluelet 2026 to 2030 Financial Plan, bylaw number 1405, 2026, and it will be presented by Mr. Cadman, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report is to get the first 3 readings of the 2026 to 2030 financial plan. This will complete the financial plan process for 2026 and enables the District of Ucluelet to execute the budget as proposed. The tax rate bylaw will be presented in April once the revised roll is published, and that will come back with options between the different classes, which was requested by council. The 2026 financial plan has several key highlights. The property tax increase is 5.49%, which is quite competitive considering the amount of projects and initiatives that are being moved forward. To keep it at this rate, we looked at all the financing solutions that we have available. So we looked at DCCs, which is coming forward this year. We're also using quite a few deferred grants. We have 300 grand for the Peninsula Road upgrades, which is a deferred MODI grant. We're also contributing 325,000 to affordable housing projects, which an additional 300 grand to affordable housing DCC breaks, RMI funds for the skateboard park expansion project. And then we also have 1.5 between the recreation reserve and RMI slated for the potential hard surface sports facility. In addition, we're doing significant planning and development review of our bylaws, and the water treatment plant is expected to complete roughly around year end. It might roll forward into early 2027, depending on how construction goes. We also have around $5 million in sanitary projects that will be completed by year end. So we have quite a bit moving forward, which is why the 5-year financial plan seems like such a large number. The property tax implication is only going up by the 5.49%, but we're just using a significant amount of grants and deferred revenue sources to fuel the rest.
Great, thank you. I really appreciated that summary that you just read out from page 28. That kind of showed the highlights of what we're planning to do with this budget, which is not just with property taxes, but RMI funds and grant money as well. Any questions for Mr. Cadman? The revised roll is published once anything is known about people that have kind of asked for revisions to their property taxes, right?
That is correct.
And so that happens in April?
End of March, early April. I can't remember the exact date.
Okay, thank you. No further.
No, I'll move something.
Okay, go for it.
Let's do it. I move that District of Ucluelet 2026-2030 financial plan bylaw number 1405 2026 be read the first time.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion?
Yeah, it's a couple of comments. Yeah, I do appreciate every effort you put into this. I think what's happening at the junction to the the $2 or $3 million you're spending in town on infrastructure. We've been talking about that for 25 years, and I'm just really delighted to see. There's nothing sexy about any of those projects, but I know that those have been on the radar for a long time, and I think that you were very reasonable with how the budget finished off. And I know that we also threw in a couple bonus items regarding the conservation officer and a few others at the end, and you seem to make it work. So I'm very supportive of it, and I'm happy that were you laughing at that one, Mr. Anderson? And so thank you for that.
All right. Any further discussion?
Could I ask just a quick question?
Sure, Councillor Anderson.
Through the mayor, Mr. Cadman, I'm just trying to remember. So the municipal tax increase this year is 5.49%, which seems palatable. But I'm just wondering, do you remember what it was offhand last year? I was just looking it up, and I can't seem to look up what that number was for 2025.
Through the mayor, I can't remember the exact global number, but residential and commercial were both around the 10%. I think it was just under 9.9%.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I'd also move that District of Hewlett 2026-2030 financial plan bylaw number 1405-2026 be read a second time.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
And I also move that District of Hewlett 2026-2030 financial plan bylaw number 1405-2026 be read a third time.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that also carries. Great. Thank you, Mr. Cadman. The second bylaw item is titled District of Ucluelet Wildlife Attractant Bylaw number 1390-2026, and it will be presented by Abby Fortune, Director of Community Services.
Good afternoon, Council. Before you have a recommendation that the District of Ucluelet Wildlife Attractant Bylaw be adopted. At the February 10th regular Council meeting, Bylaw 1390 was given first, second, and third reading. The bylaw then was reviewed by the District of Ucluelet's lawyer to ensure jurisdictional validity. The bylaw is valid, and the District of Ucluelet can go ahead with adopting it if Council so chooses. As previously discussed at the February 10th regular Council meeting, the proposed wildlife attractant bylaw provides a comprehensive regulatory framework to manage human-wildlife interactions by controlling access to non-natural food sources. As a part of our overall plan for supporting the protection of wildlife on the West Coast, the district is currently in the process of finalizing the contract to hire a wildlife safety response officer. One of the roles of the officer will be to strike a community wild safe group, which will include members from the district, wild safe, the business community, and of course, residents. From there, we will set parameters to how we will be rolling out enforcement. Much of it will be done through education, community support, and it's setting expectations. Is there any questions?
Thank you. I note on page 46, it says, because several of us were looking for what the fines and penalties might look like, and it says the charge to the owner or occupier will be in the amount prescribed by the District of Ucluelet fees and charges bylaw. So is that already in that fees and charges bylaw, or are we looking to amend
Not
that?
currently. That will be something we will be creating.
Great, thank you. Councillor Noel?
I do have a couple points here, so I wrote a couple notes myself to stay on track. So I support the intent of this bylaw. Bears are becoming more active in our community, and reducing wildlife attractants is important for both public safety and wildlife protection. However, I believe the bylaw is about 75% the way there, with a few practical details should be improved so it actually changes behavior in the community. One of them, the mayor just mentioned it, enforcement must be clear and practical. The bylaw references fines up to $50,000, but there's no practical day-to-day enforcement structure. An escalation, we've talked about that when it was presented. Suggestions, whether it's first offense $250, second $500, and repeat $1,000. If commercial garbage containers is unlocked or missing a clip, there should be straightforward enforcement response. Without practical enforcement tools, the bylaw risks becoming more symbolic than operational. One component which I did bring up before is also there's no mention regarding residential garbage carts are missing. The report focuses mainly on commercial garbage, but in reality, many wildlife attractants come from residential carts. Common issues being in town, bears dragging carts down streets, garbage scattered in neighborhoods, and carts left unattended overnight. There's no clear benchmark or guidance for residents in the report. Even if enforcement begins with education or warnings, residents should clearly understand that carts must be secured or managed properly. And lastly, the enclosure examples should be practical. The enclosure examples appears to be overbuilt and expensive. Many communities successfully prevent wildlife access using simple frame structures or open-sided enclosures. If the examples appears to be too extreme, it will discourage compliance. The goal should be practical solutions people will actually implement. And lastly, district leadership. If the district expects residents and business to follow higher standards, we should also lead by example. There are district facilities with garbage containers which have unsecured for many years. And the last question, just like the mayor, if bylaw officer observes an unlocked commercial garbage can under this bylaw, what exact enforcement action would occur immediately? I know it's all heavy for you, but
Yep.
I did talk about this before, and
Yep.
I would have loved to seen not just the template for what a perfect structure for a garbage can is, but to let all of us in the community understand what a reasonable secured garbage can looks like. There was no reference to it, and so I think we're going to be getting into a season. If we're not promoting lock blocks, not everybody has a shed to put them in. I think you're there. I'm not going to hang up this, but I think I'd like to see some future additions to this so we as residents can understand how our 3 carts should look and how they should be secured. And there's no reference to that in this bylaw.
And through the mayor, we can flesh that out further if that is something that council so wishes. Fees and charges are intentionally done separately. So that's something that we can monitor and upgrade. And with the fees and charges, there's some language around what we need to do on that. Education is obviously going to be one of our key components, and practical
When we talk
operational.
about education, I don't know what education is. I think the regional district has been trying to educate for a few years and unsuccessful. And
Fair enough.
that's why I'm a strong advocate for enforcement and then letting the residents know what best practices are for the carts. And they can't be just putting them in our garages because not everybody has one.
Agreed.
And, so I think there's a little bit of work. You know, bears are
Okay.
going to be showing up here in about 60 days. And I think there's a little bit of improvement we can do. And I'm here to help you here, Abby. I just like to see it, cut and dry and not come in July. We're trying to cut their bear interactions down to 0.
Fair enough.
And Mayor and Council, our Mayor, through the Councilman, all great points. And anything that Council wants to provide actual direction to staff now would be helpful. If not, as Ms. Fortune mentioned, we are going to come back with an updated fees and charges bylaw. Mr. Chow is working on that now. Coming back, we've already established a way that we can process fees quicker and more effective. And Mr. Chow can update you again on that. But we do hope to come back with that. But again, we're learning some of this as we go also, and want to try and be adaptive as this problem is escalating. So any further direction from council will be most helpful.
Well, I think communication is going to be a big part of this
Absolutely.
as it rolls out through Yuki Mail and just outlining some of what's in this report to the general public.
And through the mayor, we already actually started that process today. So we are meeting with WildSafe and our bylaw officer, myself, and our communications manager. And we are looking at creating that end of things. And Councillor Noel, I would certainly love to get some further stuff from you if required. And we hope to build out a fulsome fees and charges through the process.
And I think the communication has to be ongoing as well, not just sort of a one-time thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's through the mayor. That's the intent. Is we're planning a campaign for the summer and see where we get from there.
Yeah, I know WildSafe has tried the education side of things for several years, and it helps, but the ones that are not being educated are actually the tourists. And so and I've said this to the ACRD in the past, some literature that can go to accommodation providers for the people that are staying with them as to how to manage their garbage and whatnot would be really great.
And through the mayor, one of the things we're looking at doing is creating a double-sided information sheet that has that information, and we're going to partner with Tourism Ucluelet to do something along that line. It is one of the critical missing links, and is something that we've identified and want to move forward. And as you all know, we do have this wildlife safety response officer, which is going to help with enforcement as well.
And you've started recruiting for that position?
We're working with the COs on that right now, and that should be in should be in place shortly.
Oh, that soon?
Yeah.
Great.
Yes, Council, my misfortune is negotiating a contract with the Conservation Branch. So it'll be a Conservation Branch employee, but dedicated to Ucluelet.
Oh, that's the way it's going to work. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So they're all trained up and everything.
That's correct.
Great. Yeah, we don't want another year of killing 13 bears.
No, we do not.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Just in, not to digress, but in the spirit of Mr. Harding asking for more feedback, there are three points that I have. Obviously, I think this is a step in the right direction, is critically important. So I'm very supportive. I'm not critical of any of it. I definitely feel from my own experience with WildSafe and education programs that's half the battle. I agree with Councillor Noel that enforcement is a critical part of it. If we just rely on the sort of goodwill, we're going to reach the people who have the goodwill, and we're never going to reach the people who are disinterested. And to respond to your point about tourists not knowing the rules, I frankly feel that that's like, at the end of the day, that's a kind of justifiable defense. If you come here and you don't know, you don't know. But I think that we need to make sure that the enforcement really focuses on the tourism accommodation providers, because I think what happens a lot, especially with short-term rentals, is you have people that say, well, I'm not the one who's accumulating the garbage and I shouldn't be the one responsible for throwing it out. And then you have the guest that legitimately says, well, I don't know what's going on here. I came here for the weekend. I paid through the nose for an Airbnb. I put my garbage in the garbage. What more do you want me to do? So I think the enforcement really needs to, target the people who are running accommodation, to say, if you're going to run an accommodation, if you're going to have a business license, compliance with this program is part of what lets you operate. And whether it's through enforcement, whether it's through a business license review, we can't have repeat offenders. And then the third thing that I would say, just isn't specific to this plan, but I would really love to see the addition of a facility where people can drop garbage off. I know that it's beyond the scope of this bylaw to talk about the frequency of garbage collection, but every 2 weeks, pick up every 2 weeks is going to inevitably create situations where we have garbage accumulating. And if there was an easy and accessible, secure facility in town that people could go and drop off their garbage if they're heading out on vacation halfway between the pickups or something, I think that's a very, very, very necessary piece of the puzzle that's lacking right now. So those are my 3 points, but I think this is several steps in the right direction. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart. And yeah, very depressing to see, Ucluelet in the news for killing bears like it's going out of style. So hopefully that doesn't happen again.
Yes, and the ACRD is exploring some options with regard to a central garbage and recycling pickup. And I think First Light is one of the neighborhoods that is it us or the ACRD that's looking at doing that? Mr. Harding, do you know?
It's a joint effort, Mayor, with the ACRD ourselves and with the provider. So it's all, and the developer. So 4.
So rather than those 33 homes having 3 bins each, it's going to be sort of a central location.
That's the goal.
Those
That's the goal.
33
The
homeowners.
controlled compound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
I
bear-proof compound.
Like at the small craft harbor, people would often come and drop garbage off there. And of course, Kevin got upset because that facility is there for the small craft harbor. But I think it's naive to ignore the the demand and also like the well-intentioned impulse of people who are willing to drive around town with a garbage bag in their car looking for somewhere secure and appropriate to dispose of it. And when there are no options, I think it's quite frustrating. And as a community, I think we need to be able to provide that. It's just not realistic to say everyone's got to dispose of their garbage properly and then not create opportunities for people to do that. So I'd love to see that as part of the program and the long-term solution.
Mayor, if I just add to that,
Mr. Harding, yep.
one of the goals of the Lot 13 was as a pilot, see how that would work. And hopefully then we can expand it to other parts of the community and see if we can then provide some more secured locations. But this is a pilot to see how that would work. And also to work through ACRD on their procedures and what they're trying to do with their fees and charges also. So this was a chance for us to start something fresh and new.
I think
use it
it's
as an example.
I think it's already happening at St. Jake's Boulevard with those tiny homes.
Through the mayor, that's slightly different in that that's a strata. So it's a slightly different approach, but it is something we're working through. And I think it's a really good opportunity to create some leadership around it.
Mm-hmm. Great. If I see no other questions or comments, there is one recommendation. Councillor Mafty.
I'd be happy to recommend move that the District of Ucluelet Wildlife Attractant Bylaw number 1390/2026 be adopted.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Anderson, I couldn't see if you voted or not. Oh, in favor? Okay, thank you. That carries. Thank you, Ms. Fortune. The next bylaw is zoning amendment bylaw number 1393, 2026, 1797 Rainforest Lane. And before council proceeds with the next item on the agenda, I'd like to address the correspondence we have received regarding this matter. Council has received all written submissions from members of the public. I want to assure everyone that this correspondence has been provided to all members of council and has been carefully reviewed. We recognize and appreciate the time and effort that residents have taken to share their perspectives with us. All submissions will be taken into consideration as council deliberates and makes its decision. However, I also want to note that recent changes to provincial legislation under the Local Government Act have removed the requirement and ability for local governments to hold public hearings for this type of application. As a result, council is not permitted to hear oral submissions at this meeting. We appreciate your understanding as council follows the current legislative framework, and thank you again to everyone who took the time to provide written input. Your views are an important part of council's decision-making process. So we'll now proceed. The last bylaw item is titled District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1393, 2026, 1797 Rainforest Lane, and it will be presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is the zoning amendment regarding the property located at 1797 Rainforest Lane. I just do want to reiterate that it is a zoning amendment bylaw, not an OCP amendment. I think there may be some confusion in that regard. The zoning amendment was emerged out of the original application, which was a subdivision. The development proponent had submitted a subdivision application, and upon review of that subdivision application, it was determined that a zoning bylaw amendment was required before the subdivision could be considered and proceed. The parcel is zoned CD3, which is a zoning that applies to the rainforest area, and the CD3 zone contains properties that are largely built out with a mix of residential, commercial, and community uses. The zoning itself has two categories of lot sizes. So to facilitate the subdivision, a site-specific zoning amendment is being sought and is required to transition the subject property into the small lot category. To accommodate the proposal, The zoning amendment bylaw would adjust the total number of permitted small properties from 16 to 20. Importantly, and as noted in the report, this appears to be a 4-unit increase, but 2 of these parcels, lots 17 and 18, already exist. So that was identified upon review. The application would represent the creation of 2 additional lots and serves to bring the total count, if the zoning amendment bylaw is approved, the total count to 20 total lots of that small lot category. The proposed amendment bylaw does not propose a smaller lot size than what is already permitted in the CD3 zone. So if the zoning amendment is approved, it would just transition from this property from that larger lot size to the smaller lot size and facilitate a 2-lot subdivision. At this scale, each resulting lot remains significantly sized in terms of accommodating the proposed uses. And upon staff's assessment, a generous building envelope could be used, which would still be larger than typical lots on Bay Street, Victoria Road, and Edwards Place. This minimum lot size for the smaller residential lots is consistent or greater than, for example, the R1 zone within the community. Regarding infrastructure, the scale of infill development would be considered minor, and at this stage of review, both storm, sewer, and water systems, it's not expected to have impact on those. The one item, though, as noted in the report, the subject property currently features a single driveway access point with limited site frontage. That site frontage is still large enough to accommodate a driveway, but there's the potential there through the subdivision review that it would likely require shared access easement to service 2 lots if this zoning amendment bylaw is approved, just to adequately make sure there's enough space and minimize the amount of entrances onto the streetscape. But through subdivision, access, stormwater, sewer, and water service are thoroughly reviewed for the exact specifics of the subdivision proposal, and they cannot proceed unless district policies are satisfied to the satisfaction of the approving officer. Hence, all parking requirements for any of the proposed uses would need to be satisfied on the proposed parcels and not utilize street parking. So that would include for the housing, two spaces per unit, plus a secondary suite or ADU, 2 spaces, and any bed and breakfast requires 1 space per unit, and it requires to be accommodated off-site or on-site. So as noted, the zoning amendment would allow that transition to the smaller lot size. While this transition typically reduces the interior side yard setback from 5 meters to 3 meters, the applicant has agreed to maintain the greater side yard setback for the existing neighborhood parcels. If council does wish to proceed with the zoning amendment bylaw, we would recommend securing that as a Section 219 covenant. And I just do want to highlight the difference here. There's the Section 219 covenant would be something that is agreed to by the property owner and the district and would run with the lands. This is different than the statutory building scheme that is on the parcel, which the district has no part in administering, nor do we necessarily require anyone to adhere to it. That's not our role, and that is placed at the time of development. However, any applicant would need to make sure that they are satisfying the requirements of a building scheme, but they would do so at their own legal risk if they were to deviate from that, and that is typically something that the district never has any involvement within enforcing or administering. It's simply not our document. I do also want to clarify, and thank you, Mayor, for your comments at the beginning, that we are trying to operate in the recent changes of the legislative changes around public process and community input. The provincial government has established clear rules under the Local Government Act regarding when a public hearing is permitted. And in this case, where in staff's assessment, it is consistent with the general OCP, and it's primarily residential or over 50% residential in total floor area. So it's not an option of whether a public hearing can be held. We are strictly prohibited from it. And to be clear, we do believe at staff's assessment, the application is consistent with the text of the OCP, in particular the land use designation, which directly applies, and therefore the public hearing was permitted. I will say, though, we completely understand in the planning department, and it's not just a District Review Cluid issue, The provincial changes have produced an environment that does make it hard on residents and hard on community to feel like they do have a say in proposals that impact them, and that can create confusion, angst, and dissatisfaction. And we just, we're alive to that, and we do know it's not a district only problem, but it is a problem, and I think there's some unintended consequences there with the Bill 44 changes. So to close my remarks, Mayor and Council, staff are recommending Council grant bylaw readings to the proposal, as when taken as a whole, it is consistent with the district's OCP. The OCP designates this property for single-family residential, and this bylaw simply facilitates creating 2 single-family lots utilizing the small lot parcel size already permitted within the CD3 zone. In the district zoning bylaw, bed and breakfast use is strictly secondary and capped at 35% of the gross floor area, ensuring that development remains primarily residential. Happy to answer any questions, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I'll start by seeing if there are any questions from council. I think we're all fairly familiar with this this report. Councillor Hoare?
I've got a question because there seems to be an inconsistency, but maybe it's me. I could blame the cold particles for making me read things sideways. I think it's on page 52 of our agenda. It says that the subdivision is dividing the property into 2 equal parcels. And then in the proponent's letter, it says that they're unequal parcels. And I'm just curious about which is actually the case.
It's a good question. Both have potential. At this stage, it's just the rezoning. I'm just pulling up my notes here on this particular one, but ultimately both would be permitted. The exact configuration would be determined through the subdivision process.
Okay. And the smaller lot size, if it were the one in the proponents, would still be large enough to do the setbacks and things as required?
Correct. It couldn't go less than the small lot size within the zoning.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? No? If there are no other questions.
Can I jump in with a quick one?
Councillor Anderson, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, no, I was just going to ask Mr. Brown. I'm going back there. I thought I heard. This is more of just a clerical question. If a 219 covenant was breached, who is in enforcement of that, or how does that play out if there's a break in the 219 covenant that's put on the property?
So the 219 covenant would be between the district and the property owner. So if that was placed on title as a condition of rezoning, that would be up to the district to enforce through legal action. In the case of, and just to be absolutely clear, in the case of a building scheme, which is a separate item on title, that would be amongst property owners and would, I believe, be a civil suit in court.
Great. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, if I see no other questions, I have a motion I'm going to put forward for discussion. I'll move that the District of Ucluelet Council deny the application for zoning amendment bylaw number 1393.
I second that.
Councillor Noel seconds. Further discussion?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I'm surprised you did that. I'm proud of you. Yeah, I didn't know where that was going. I thought there was going to be a dogfight in here today. So it's
Early days, Mako.
It's early days. Yeah, it's good. We're working at a new energy. Yeah, I just want to start by acknowledging the neighbors. We all heard your concerns, and people have invested heavily in their homes. And I respect that. This is clearly a neighborhood people care deeply about. I also want to acknowledge something important to the immediate neighbors. There has already been significant change around them, new development, increased density behind them, and now being asked to consider change beside them as well. This compounds things. I understand how that can feel, and I don't take that lightly. But we also need to step back and look at this in a broader planning perspective. I've lived here for 54 years. I remember when this development occurred, Rainforest Lane, along with Premier, The Ridge, Water's Edge, St. Jake's Boulevard, was part of a comprehensive vision in the early 90s. That vision mattered. It was intentional. It created a mix, smaller lots in some areas, larger estate style lots in others. Rainforest Lane was part of that balance. It was designated to be different, and I think we're losing sight of that context because you've said what you said. That's redundant now, but what's before us today in principle makes sense. Subdividing a large lot into two smaller lots is something that we are seeing and supporting in many other parts of this community, but this is just not the location. This is one of the last remaining areas in our town where original character, larger tree lots still exists. And I think that has value. I walk these streets regularly and I work in the community every day. Rainforest Lane is a unique part of Ucluelet and the residents are asking to maintain that character. I respect that. I also want to be clear, this is not a staff issue. Staff have done their job. The applicant is has every right to bring this forward. This is simply a decision about whether we maintain the original intent of this neighborhood or we change it. And for me, that's what comes down to. This isn't about loud voices. This is about context. When the area was developed, the trade-off was clear. There would be smaller lots in some areas and then larger lots preserved in others. The balance has already been delivered. So for me, the question is, do we start to erode one of the last remaining examples of the original vision? And in this case, I'm not prepared to do that. And I'm glad the mayor has as well. And because I believe the value is in maintaining the character. And I believe it's reasonable for this neighborhood, given its origins, to remain the way it's intended. And so for those reasons, I'm opposing this application. Sorry to go on, but I just wanted to get that out. So,
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed.
Yes.
That carries. Thank you.
now go eat dinner. You're done. Your battle's done. You're all good.
If any,
I don't think that's appropriate.
I don't know, that's fine. If any of you were here for specifically that item, you are welcome to leave now or you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Can we take a 5-minute? I just gotta go to the washroom.
Sure. It is 5:12. We'll take a 5-minute break. All right. There are two reports on the agenda tonight. The first report is titled Municipal Alcohol Policy, and it will be presented by Abby Fortune, Director of Community Services.
All right. Council, before you have a recommendation that council directs staff to seek public input on the draft of the municipal alcohol policy or MAP and bring it back to council for further consideration. The purpose of MAP is to provide guidelines for sales, service, and consumption of alcohol in a municipally owned or controlled property. The policy rationale behind MAP is a thoughtful local regulation of alcohol availability and services. It is evidence-based approach that reduces preventable alcohol-related harms, supports safer public spaces, and contributes to long-term shifts towards healthier social norms and improved population health. The guiding principles we looked at was community health and safety, inclusive and family-friendly spaces, balanced and responsible services, and transparency and services, fairness, sorry. The district will continue collaborating with Island Health, RCMP, community groups, and local First Nations to support and promote safe celebrations and public health campaigns through education and guidelines. In fact, much of what is being presented today is what we've already been doing and put in play with events such as Yuki Days. We are looking at a change of culture with responsible drinking through education and parameters. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Fortune. Any questions for Abby? Some comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for this, Abby. This has been obviously floating around for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Faye and Dr. Marshall have come here in the past trying to get it going on. I just wanted to point out a couple things as you go out in the public. I know this is really, I find this is really designed specifically with Yuki Days. I've been going to a lot of them over the decades, and just some minor chicken shit stuff here, but I know it says in there that it's a maximum of 4 tickets allowed to be issued at a time. What I find in the events is the Yuki Days, who, they're only issuing 2, which I find creates unnecessary lineups. I find tickets often being sold at one table. This also adds extreme long lineups. I know this is about protecting a few vulnerable people in the crowd. It does sometimes, it's very evident who those people are sometimes. I could point them out to you. But I also like to talk about the people that are being responsible in the community, which is 99.99% of them. And sometimes at Yuki Days, a lineup can sometimes reach hundreds of feet. Tickets should be sold at multiple locations and tables to improve efficiency. Although I don't drink, I even have to line up for my non-alcoholic drink. Yuki Days is a big part of this community. And on occasion, I find that sometimes it can just be a bit managed a little bit different. Having people stand in line for 30 or 45 minutes to buy tickets, that's not a good event management. It's simply bad logistics. So I understand that we're trying to create good alcohol policy, which I'm not saying I'm not supportive of. I just think that make sure that when we're creating this kind of policy, it doesn't mean people should wait, 45 minutes for a beer ticket. And that's all I'm saying. And if you're allowed to buy 4, why are we only selling 2? And just trying to, just make it the people's experience better, because everybody in town wants to be responsible. And I know that your event on Saturday night is getting more and more popular. And that's where it's very evident, where you can hear people getting frustrated because they just can't get 2 tickets. And these are not people that the police are picking up out of the ditch. Those people usually show up in the afternoon. So anyways, those are my things. I love that you're doing it. I would just like to see a little bit of better logistics on the management of tickets and not treat everybody like we're 12 years old sometimes, right?
And through the mayor, if I may, and thank you for your comments. I greatly appreciate that. There's a couple BC liquor regulations with that. That's why you can only get 2 drinks at a time. It's actually a provincial
I see
legislation.
that. Then I'll go to Polo Bernie to where all the motorbikes drive, and I can buy 50 of them at a time. So again, same regulation. I don't know. I'm just saying that I go to other events that are sanctioned, and they're not rationing like my mother would to give me my allowance on the Saturday. That's my only criticism.
Yep.
Outside of that, I think it's necessary. We just need to make sure the people that want to be responsible need to have a good experience at these events. And
Absolutely,
and sometimes
absolutely.
that's the loud message that we're getting. That it's not always the most streamlined. So, but I appreciate you taking it on.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Hoare?
I'm curious. So you said it's a rule about the 2 drink maximum.
Yeah.
Which, having sold drink tickets last year on Saturday at Yuki Days, I can tell you how long that lineup was. And people were frustrated at only being able to buy 2 each. But the policy says 4.
So we switched it
Mhm.
through the mayor. We switched it at Yuki Days on the Sunday. We actually switched to 4 tickets because we recognized that there was an issue. And Councillor Noel, good suggestion on having more than one location to sell tickets. That's a great idea. And we've already additionally looked at the non-alcohol. We're gonna do differently. So you can buy 4 tickets, but we can only serve 2 at a time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the idea of having maybe an alternate spot that you can get your non-alcoholic drink tickets, because
Yeah, my staff has already identified that.
awesome. As
Great.
the person who was standing there when everybody was upset when they'd been in line for half an hour to get drink tickets, I 100% on this.
No, that's great. Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, there's one
I'll
recommendation.
move that.
Councillor Noel. Oh, Councillor Anderson, did you have a comment?
Just a quick comment. I just wanted to thank Ms. Fortune for bringing this forward, and Ms. Mizar that did the work on this in the background. And I think this is a long time coming, and it's I guess some of the social norms are changing over time, but I think just having just that responsible alcohol policy, just the fact that we have one shows that we care, and we care what the kids are seeing when we go to these events. And I don't have a problem with the way things has been run in the past, but I think just kind of keeping up with the times, and I think, yeah, we could do a couple tweaks with getting the line shorter. But in general, I think Yuki Days has been run terrific, and it's been great. But I think this is going to be a useful update. So thank you to Ms. Mizar and Ms. Fortune for that.
Thank you.
Why don't you move it? You like it so much.
I will move it. I will move that council direct staff to seek public input on the draft municipal alcohol policy and bring it back to council for further considerations.
I'll second that.
Councillor Noel seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed. That carries. Thank you, Ms. Fortune.
Thank you very much.
The second and last report is titled Council Compensation Review, and it will be presented by Ed Chow, Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you. Through Mayor to Council. The district's current council compensation was determined by a bylaw was adopted back in 2017. So this bylaw haven't been comprehensively reviewed for about 10 years. Last fall, staff brought forward a report recommending council to start the review process because it's considered the best practice for municipality for the current council to do the review ahead of the general election. So any changes will only take effect for the upcoming council. So after competitive RFP process, Pennington and Associate was awarded this project. Lead consultant Mark Brown was with us, and he has over 45 years of local government experience, have served as leadership role with LGMA and Civic Info. He did a comprehensive review of current district council compensation with benchmarking similar municipalities, community feedback survey, and also look at current economic conditions, come up with a number of recommendations for council to consider. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Brown to go over the detailed finding and recommendation.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Chow, for the introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank Council for selecting our firm to do this compensation review. It's been a pleasure working with your staff and other municipalities and gathering this information, and appreciate the opportunity to present my findings. There's a report that's in your council package along with the accompanying report from Mr. Chow. What I'll do right now, if I could share my screen, I'll have a short PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so on March 10th, I produced the report that's in your packages and the agenda. And there was basically a council compensation review and recommendations contained in the report. The objectives of the review were to benchmark council compensation against similar municipalities in British Columbia, assess existing council remuneration, benefits, and reimbursement of expenses, gather community feedback and perspectives on council compensation, and recommend any adjustments or changes to compensation. The methodology and timeline of the project, back in November 6th of 2025, the contract was awarded and the project was commenced. During the period December 25 to February 26, the council compensation was obtained from 50 local governments, and this was obtained through Civic Info as well as direct contact with some of the municipalities that were comparable that did not complete the survey. So I made a direct contact with member municipalities of local government in British Columbia that were comparable. There was an online survey that was conducted with SurveyMonkey that was posted on your website with the assistance of your staff, and I thank you for that, from January 9th to January 31st, 2026, and 62 responses were obtained, and later in the slide, I'll go through what the results were. On February 26th, 2026, analysis of the benchmark and data and the public feedback was gathered. And in March, the recommendations to assess the fairness and ability to retain and recruit elected officials was the consideration when making the recommendations. So as I said, there was a council compensation review public survey conducted. It was on the website January 9th, 62 responses received by the January 31st deadline. So question one talked about getting some information on what type of people were filling out the survey. There was approximately 85% were either full-time or part-time residents. There's also a question on how long have you lived in or been connected to Ucluelet? And again, approximately 79% of the respondents were in the community for 6+ years. There was a question about how familiar was the respondents with the role and responsibilities and time commitment of Ucluelet council members. And approximately 94% were actually very familiar or somewhat familiar with the role and responsibilities of council. Question 4, compared to similar municipalities, how do you believe Ucluelet council's overall compensation level is? Now, while the survey on the website did provide council's current compensation, the average member of the public may not be aware of what comparable compensation actually was. So this particular question, there was some uncertainty on where council sat with regard to comparables. And similar to question 4, even as I said, the council's remuneration was provided leading to the question. There was an appropriateness question about the current level of council compensation given their responsibilities and time commitment. So again, there was no clear direction there. Question 6, however, did provide some direction on what extent Ucluelet's cost of living be considered when setting council compensation. So 84% of the respondents thought that the cost of living should be considered to either a small, some, or great extent. Question 7, to what extent should Ucluelet's growth and visitor serving role be considered when setting council compensation? And again, there was a trend towards approximately 70% figured that this should be a factor when determining council compensation to a great extent, some extent, or to a small extent. Only 30% thought none at all. Question 8, how important is it that council compensation is benchmarked against municipalities that are similar both in size and type, e.g. resort communities? And again, there was quite a strong influence there where 92% of the respondents thought that it was important to look at similar size or resort communities. Only 8% thought it was not important to do so. And the final question that provided some input was how important is fair council compensation in attracting and retaining qualified, diverse candidates for local government? And again, there was quite a strong indication that 80% or 82% thought that this was either somewhat important, very important, or extremely important. Only approximately 18% thought it was not important. So these surveys results had some impact on the benchmarking, which I'll get into now. So your request for proposal stated that the council compensation review was to consider the resort community, the high cost of living, and the growth rate. The other criteria was to benchmark the compensation against similar municipalities utilizing these various criteria, and to have the public input that I just reviewed to influence the weighting factor. So this, looking at the different benchmarks that were obtained and the weighting of each of them, again, was attributable to a lot with the public input as well as standard survey practices. So given that population, 2,000 to 5,000 was one of the considerations. The Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, AVICC, so geographically looking at 20% attribution to that. District municipalities, so basically municipalities such as Ucluelet with a smaller population with a larger land base. And the 10% resort tourism municipalities, again, this is a factor given the ability to provide services, particularly with a population that's greater in either the summer or winter, depending on the municipality in BC. The 20% allocation to weighting was based on the survey conducted from the public that thought this should be quite a high component of the benchmarking. And one of the schedules that's provided in the report to you this evening talked about the living wages that were established by a survey in 2025. So being at Ucluelet was, I think, 2740. I took municipalities that had a living wage comparator of $27.25 per hour to $27.80 per hour. And finally, looking at the Alberni-Cloquet Regional District, municipalities of Tofino and Port Alberni was attributed to 25% of the benchmarking. So that input resulted in these results that are summarized here. So using the weighted averages that reflect the community feedback received, the benchmark results indicate that the mayor's salary, the benchmark average was $39,765 and currently is $31,409 per annum. And the difference is $8,356, which is approximately 21%. A councillor salary benchmark average was $19,768 and currently it's $17,952. For a difference of $1,816 or approximately 9%. The per diem, municipalities have various ways of calculating this. Some do a half day per diem, some do a full day per diem, some break it out with breakfast, lunch, and dinner as provided below. And these are the various figures there. You can see the full day per diem averaged out at $101.46, and Ucluelet currently is $69 for a difference of $32.46. Breakfast allowance and lunch allowance and dinner allowance. The reason for these ranges, some municipalities provide a higher breakfast and lunch and dinner if your conference, say, was in Whistler or Vancouver versus any other community. So that's why there's the range there. So given the breakfast allowance, it's about $8 lower. Lunches are comparable, and the dinner is about $3.50 lower. That's your results there. So in summary, the benchmarking against similar municipalities was widely supported by the community feedback. Ucluelet's compensation is generally lower than the benchmark levels, and appropriate compensation levels are very important to attract and retain capable, diverse elected officials. So the recommendations, which are contained also in Mr. Chow's report, I will go over. So first recommendation is to receive the report dated March 10th. The second recommendation is that District Ucluelet currently uses the mileage allowance for travel. It's prescribed by the Canada Revenue Agency. And that's quite common in my survey that the CRA rate, which is currently 73 cents per kilometer, is as a standard that's quite widely accepted throughout British Columbia. And the recommendation, because of the varying amounts of the breakfast, lunch, and dinner allowances that I just alluded to, in speaking with other finance officers and for taxation purposes, etc., it's recommended that the District of Ucluelet utilize the meals and per diem rates that are established by the CRA, similar to how you do your mileage. And that seems to be a growing practice of other municipalities to adopt that practice of using the CRA rather than their own rates. So what I've done here is set out a number of alternatives. And of course, there's various ones even over above the 4 recommended. However, as covering off the mayor's remuneration and also council, which is on the next slide, it's a similar recommendation that you could implement the benchmark rate of $39,765 effective January 1st, 2027. You could phase it in over a 2-year period, which is recommendation B, or you could implement the annual rate and phase it over a 4-year period, which is basically the next term of council. So January 1st, 2027, each year through to January 1st, 2030. Or, of course, you could maintain the status quo and not implement the recommended annual remuneration rates and maintain the current mayor's compensation amount. So, as I said, this councillor annual remuneration rate mirrors the mayor's recommendations, except, of course, the amount is $19,768. But again, there's a immediate implementation on January 1st, 2-year, 4-year, or not implement. Currently, you also have in your bylaw that these rates are adjusted annually on January 1st of each year. So there was an increase of January 1st of 2026, for example, and that's using the Consumer Price Index (CPI) as published by Statistics Canada. So it's recommended you keep maintain that annual increase. It helps you keep in pace with market conditions or other council compensation rates throughout BC. And as you've done this time, and as Mr. Chow pointed out, the bylaw was in 2017 adopted. It's recommended that this process, whether you use a consultant or do it in-house, that there would be a council compensation review every 4 years in the year prior to the general local election to ensure that the remuneration, benefits, expenses are equitable, competitive, and reflective of the municipality's scale, responsibilities, and cost of living. And finally, just to, again, other municipalities are tending to do this for ease of changing some of the rates that you might go forward without having to change a bylaw. It's recommended put the recommendations that are adopted either this evening or at a future meeting, along with what's existing in your current bylaw into a policy, so that you direct staff to basically provide for the authorization of the recommendations and any compensation through policy. And that concludes my presentation. And again, I'd like to reiterate, I'd like to thank the District Hewlett and the Council for trusting me with this important review. And I really sincerely commend Council for undertaking this work proactively, supporting the incoming Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Are there any questions for Mr. Brown? Councillor Noel?
Mr. Brown, thank you. When how am I going to word this one? You might have to help me here, Your Worship. So we have our stipend that we get for being here, and then we have another little fee that we have for if you're going to meetings. And was that reviewed in this policy?
That's the per diem, yes.
Wasn't the per diem for food? That was the
No.
101?
No, the per diem was it was averaged
The
out.
101 was the per diem. So that would be, because currently we have a under 4 hours, over 4 hours.
Right.
Did I miss something? Is there just one fee, one rate now?
He's just averaged those two numbers out.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, to make it simple.
Yeah, but we probably will stick with the under 4 hours, over 4 hours.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chow, correct? Yes.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah.
That was my only question. Everything else was good. I think it's important, and I'd also support us implementing it in 2021, not doing a gradual 2 years. I think, again, as we try to canvass community members that may want to go in here, I think Jeff and his crew there will find us the extra a little bit of money in order to do it. So I'm supportive of everything I see, and thank you for the clarity, Your Worship. And I would love to see it happen in the new year.
2027 as opposed to 2021. You said 2021.
Okay. Thank you. I'm getting
But we knew we knew what you meant.
revved up here. I got to bring her down.
That note, for the sake of argument, why not just implement it from the first cycle of the new council that comes for October?
November 1st.
Like, does it?
November 1st.
Is there a reason it needs to be January 1st?
It's just that's council's discretion. Council can, of course, can pick. Sometimes the municipal finance department would like a calendar year, just sort of the same rate, then kick from January 1st. But it's council discretion. Yeah.
Mr. Cadman, does that make a difference to you? If it was November 1st as opposed to
Not a
January
huge difference. It's just something that our payroll department will sort out, but it doesn't make a huge difference.
So that could be an option then to make it effective November 1st. All right, there's a number of recommendations, and I will just make a note that the first one should say March 10th, because that is the date of his report, as opposed to what it says in our package of the 17th.
I'm happy to move these and together.
Separately, I would assume.
Yeah, because we want to make some changes, right? Like the
yeah.
dates. Those
Yes, good idea.
I'll move that council receive the District of Ucluelet Council Compensation Review Report dated March 10th, 2026, prepared by Panison and Associates.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I'll further move that the District of Ucluelet maintain the current mileage allowance for travel that is the prescribed rate by the Canada Revenue Agency, CRA, for tax purposes set annually by the Department of Finance, Canada.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I'll further move that the District of Ucluelet utilize the meals and per diem rates allowance as established by the Canada Revenue Agency, CRA, effective November 1st, 2027.
2026.
2026. Yeah. Yeah.
I will second that, but I've got a question.
Councillor Hoare?
Maybe it's just that I'm blonde and sick. But I didn't notice the CRA, what the CRA actual per diems and meal allowance things were. Is that in there and I just missed it? Just curious.
Yeah, it's actually if you Google it, it's actually on the public website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I just didn't Google it, so there you go.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I'll further move that the District of Ucluelet set the mayor's annual remuneration rate in accordance with the rate of 39,765 established by the Council Compensation Review Report, effective November 1st, 2026.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion?
If we're having a further discussion, I'll just say this on the record. I think this is the type of stuff that, makes it in the Westerly and everyone has a strong opinion. I've always said it's not about paying council or the mayor more. It's about making sure that if the community has a high standard and a high expectation for the quality of work that they expect from their elected officials, and I think they have every right to expect the highest standard, then I think it's only reasonable that we as a community commit to compensating these elected officials fairly. And based on the report here, it seems that, if we're coming in under, the least we can do is sort of, match the standard. And if from the survey, it didn't seem that anyone was dramatically or drastically opposed, but I would encourage anyone who feels that people are being overpaid to sit and calculate how many hours on average council puts into the job and ask themselves what they would come in to do it for. So it's always it's ridiculous to sit here and say like, oh, we should pay ourselves more money, but I don't think that that's what it's about. I think it's about making sure that whoever sits up here is being fairly compensated for the work they're doing, and that's something I'd expect whether or not I was sitting in this chair.
Thank you for those comments. Hopefully the Westerly News is watching and listening.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I will further move that the District of Ucluelet set the councilor's annual remuneration rate in accordance with an annual rate of $19,768 as established by the Council Compensation Review Report, effective November 1st, 2026.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion?
Same comments as before from me.
Okay. Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I'll further move that the District of Ucluelet maintain that the base annual remuneration for the mayor and councillor be adjusted annually on January 1st of each year in accordance with the annual Consumer Price Index, CPI, as published by Statistics Canada.
I'll second. Sorry.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I'll further move that the District of Ucluelet conduct a council compensation review every 4 years in the year prior to the general local election to ensure that the remuneration, benefits, and expenses are equitable, competitive, and reflective of the municipalities' scale, responsibilities, and cost of living.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed. That carries.
I'll finally move that council. I'm assuming there's a typo here, that council direct. Oh no, that council that. I will finally move that Council of the District of Ucluelet repeal bylaw number 1226, 2017, and direct staff to prepare a policy for council's approval to establish the provisions of council remuneration, benefits, and expenses based on the current bylaw and incorporating the council compensation review report recommendations adopted by council.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? None opposed. That carries. Whoa, great. That's great. Yeah. And I think just my comment is next year, 2027, will be 10 years since it was last changed. And so that's why I think it's great to implement it right at November for the new council, because it has been quite some time since it has been reviewed, and having that provision in here to review it every 4 years will be a good policy. All right. Are there any notices of motion?
Yeah, I got one. I'll throw out.
Councillor Noel?
Okay, like I said, I got lots of time on my hand these days. Notice of motion, childhood and early year support. I would like to give notice that at the next council meeting, I intend to bring forward a motion related to childcare and early year support in our community. 1 year ago today, I helped remove my oldest daughter from a very abusive relationship, brought her back to Yuki with her child. At that time, I didn't know the full extent of what she had been going through, and I'm incredibly grateful that she trusted me enough to call and ask for help. Over the past year, I've had the chance to watch her rebuild her life and her confidence. She spent the first few months back here in Yuki with family support around her, and today she's doing incredibly well. As a father, I feel very fortunate that I was able to be there during her transition. But that experience also opened my eyes to something I hadn't fully appreciated before. Housing is only one piece of the challenge. What many parents, especially single parents, really struggle with is navigating childcare while trying to rebuild their lives and work around school hours. Programs like Strong Start were incredibly important for her. Having a place where parents can go for a few hours, interact with other families, and receive support makes a real difference when someone is trying to get back on their feet. What I'm interested in exploring as council is whether we can work closely with the school district and other community partners to support families in those early years. This may not require new buildings or major capital investment. It may simply be about coordinating existing programs, spaces, so they can better reflect the needs of families rather than just the schedules of the service providers. I will be bringing forward a motion to the next council meeting, asking staff to explore these opportunities and report back to council.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Noel. We have no correspondence this evening. Mayor's announcements. I'd like to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing green because I'm a quarter Irish. And the Whale Festival is on. It started this past weekend. There is a calendar of events on the website. There's something happening every day. Well, more than one thing happening every day. And hopefully the rain subsides a little bit so some of the outdoor activities can be enjoyed by everyone. There are lots of whales being spotted because they're out there, and 20,000 of them are going past our shores right now. So I just wanted to mention that, and I wanted to say farewell to Mr. Cadman. And we've enjoyed having you with the District of Ucluelet for quite some time now, and we wish you every good fortune in your future endeavors.
Mayor, yeah, we just sent out a notice to council just before the meeting started. So yes, Mr. Cadman was awarded the CFO position in the city of Powell River, but he's not leaving yet. In fact, he can't leave until the budget gets finalized and approved.
That's right.
And he can't. So yeah, we've got his car keys until council's approved the final budget. So we have him until May. Right?
Yeah, that's great.
So long as you don't use all your sick days and play that nonsense, all right? We want you to work and do what's necessary. Don't be one of those guys, okay?
I got way too much to get done.
Okay, Councillor Anderson, any report from you?
A couple things. What I want to also congratulate Mr. Cadman on his new endeavors with Powell River. I think that's great. He's going to be missed. That's for sure. But all the best to Mr. Cadman moving forward. The last Wednesday, was it February the 25th? I met with the Toquat Nation just to talk about economic development commonalities or overlap in what we both might be interested in doing regionally. And some of the things that we've been looking at doing with wave energy, food security, seaweed, and also vessel electrification. So that was interesting. I got to sit down with our previous CFO, Donna Monteith, new CAO for Toquat, and near and dear to our hearts, Denise, formerly of Tourism Ucluelet, who is the new economic development officer for Toquat. So that was great to sit down. We had I think it was longer than, I think I talked their ear off for almost 2 hours on that one, but it was really good. And I think there's some really, really good overlap with what they might be interested in doing, especially with seaweed, but almost everything. They seem to be on the same page. So we're connecting in a couple of different ways there. And then on Monday, on Monday, March the 2nd, we had a meeting. Madam Mayor, you were there with Dan Levitt, which is our BC Seniors Advocate. And that was a terrific meeting. One of the things I wanted to do was to get him to attend one of our, as Daniel had mentioned from the ACRD, the ACHN, which is run by our Marcy DeWitt, and to get, because there's so many people in that ACHN meeting that we have monthly, that for everything from Island Health, Family Resources, West Coast, it's the full gamut of everyone that can help make these decisions. So when we're talking about having beds and long-term care and having home care aides, it's sort of I think the best way to go is to have him come in and talk to ACHN. But it was great because we even came up with a handful of ideas while we were just chatting. One of them being, instead of when we need more beds, one of the things they can do, there's a program, I think it was called Coastal Vancouver, where they can come and buy it's like homes, essentially, like single story homes, and convert them into long-term care facilities. So there's other options, which is probably something that's more needed in Tofino than us right now. What else was there? The mayor and I met with New Leaf Farms again, and Rich and Mr. Harding, which is our food security group that we've been talking to about putting together a controlled environment agriculture center, basically a greenhouse that's using NextJet sensor technology. The greenhouse almost runs itself. The plants tell you when they want to be watered, what their pH is, what their humidity needs are, and it's run in a highly efficient manner. And there's I think a couple dozen communities that are using these now, and it's a source of potentially non-taxable or non-tax revenue for the municipality. But also just a source of nutritious food that we could, you could have this for restaurants, but it is probably supply of the majority of the produce that you would ever want to give to the food bank as well. So there'll be more coming on that down the road. And then later on that day at 1 p.m., I had a call with our housing minister's office, Kristen Boyle, and just talking about some of the things that we may be needing coming down the pipe in terms of infrastructure needs like that, based on some of these new projects that are becoming here. So if our economic development goes in the direction that it looks like we're going to be going, I think that we're going to need some help, and especially with the housing side of things. And it turns out that if you do have these economic development sort of ventures, that you could put you in a better position for some of these housing grants. And then they recommended that we also talk to Adrian Dix, the Minister of Energy, to have this conversation. So I was going to make a motion on that tonight, but I'm going to wait for the next time, because I didn't get a chance to put that together properly, but I'm gonna, I think, make a motion to see if we can get a meeting set up. Kristen Boyle's office for the Minister of Housing said that we should do like a double meeting where we could have Adrian Dix and her office together to speak. So I think that would be beneficial. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how to set that up. So I'll talk to staff about that. But I'm going on and on here, so I'm going to stop talking. That's it for me.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Hoare?
All right. Well, the mayor and I were off at the local government leadership academy last week, and we started off learning about storytelling. And so apparently the two of us are better at telling stories now than we were. It was a lot about strategic storytelling, and it was actually kind of interesting to listen to other people's stories. At one point we were sitting around the table and everybody was telling the story of how they ended up sitting in whatever chair they were sitting in. Gesundheit. And it was just quite fascinating to hear how people, a lot of them came from advocacy positions and then landed in the chair because someone noticed that they had skills. So it's just kind of fascinating. I love a good story, so I was fine with that. We also had an interesting presentation on stewarding the finish line, like as you're coming towards the end of your 4 years. And I'm all about the quotes, the mayor knows this. And one of the people made the comment that when you're sitting in this chair, one of the challenges is to do the right thing at the right time for the right cost. And I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that's when you plan for things as opposed to being reactive, you are proactive. And I know that we have done a lot of work on this council trying to be as proactive as we can to deal with some of the issues we get to deal with. And loads of good sessions, but the very final session was titled, "It Seemed Like a Good Idea at the Time." Turned out to be my favorite session. And I really think every conference should end with one like this. But it was the quote that I pulled from that one, and I really liked it, which was, "If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room." So I've been thinking that one over a little bit, but it was a really good conference. And we got to celebrate the mayor's birthday. And so that was, yeah, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Councillor Hoare. There was quite a variety of food choices that the conference as well, which was delightful. Councillor Mashey.
Not much to report. Whalefest, always a blast. Really enjoyed the Chatter Chowdown, a couple other events. Rez is involved with a few as well, and it's great to see people getting excited and the engagement. Yeah, other than that, I'm finally feeling like I got my feet back under me after too long of an absence. So it's good to be home, and yeah, that's it for me for now.
Great. Was it my imagination or was it 2 months you were gone?
Oh, it was like just over 5 weeks.
Oh, it felt longer.
Oh, yeah, for me too, but yeah, no, not 2 months.
Okay. Councillor Noel.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, over to me. February 25th, I attended an ACRD board meeting and hospital board meeting by Zoom. On the 27th of February, I partially attended an AVICC virtual session on housing corporations. I could only sit in on part of it, but they have sent the recording of that session. So I'm going to finish listening to that when I have a little time this weekend. March 2nd, as Councillor Anderson said, we had a Teams meeting with Dan Levitt, the Seniors Advocate. That was sort of a follow-up to the meeting I had at Forest Glen, which was a couple of weeks before that, where they announced that Forest Glen is no longer an assisted living facility. So we were reaching out to Dan to help a little bit with that, and I think he might be able to pull a few strings, but we'll see. March 4th was an ACRD Committee of the Whole meeting, and that's where Pat Deacon presented all the economic development initiatives that Port Alberni and the Valley are doing, which was a very long list. And just interesting to see what other areas regionally are doing for economic development. March 5th at 9 o'clock was the Resort Community Mayors meeting on Teams, and I think there were 12 out of the 14 of us at that one, so that was great. And then at 10 o'clock that day was our meeting with New Leaf that Councillor Anderson spoke about. March 6th, I had an iced tea meeting. Island Coast Economic Trust is what that stands for. At 10 o'clock, we only meet 3 times a year. So it's just interesting to see what projects the board has allocated funding to. And later that evening, I went to the Quillette Chamber of Commerce Special General Meeting at Blackrock at 6 o'clock, and that was to determine the fate of the chamber. And basically, in a nutshell, they are going to take 6 to 12 months off and try and reinvent themselves and recruit board members. There were 5 people at that special general meeting that offered to sit on the board, but their bylaws say they need a minimum of 8. So it's the old board is still in effect, but not really doing anything except trying to figure out how to reinvent themselves for the future. And then the 10th to the 13th, I was with Councillor Hoare at the LGLA, Local Government Leadership Academy Conference in Richmond, and the theme of the whole conference was finishing strong, because we're all in our 4th year of our 4-year term. And my favorite session was that last one on Friday morning as well. It seemed like a good idea at the time. It was a panel discussion. There were 5 people chosen to tell what they had thought was a good idea at the time, which maybe did not turn out so well. And they had to do a slideshow presentation to go along with it. And I think they had, 3 minutes?
They had 20 slides, and the slides were advanced automatically, so they didn't have control of any sort. So they had to kind of, I think they were just,
2 minutes maybe.
Something like that. It was about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. And they were all so different from each other. All 5 of them had extremely different experiences and outcomes. I won't say which was my favorite, but they were all good.
I don't think I could pick a favorite, but I liked that because they were so varied, then all the questions and things that came up afterwards could be just as varied.
Exactly.
It opened the floor to everything.
Yeah. And on March 14th, Saturday, I attended the Art Splash opening reception at Blackrock. It's a great art show. It coincides, it's put on by Praz, but it coincides with the Whale Festival every year. And so I highly recommend going through that. Councillor Noel was there that night as well. Bring your credit card, yeah. And then on the Sunday, the 15th, I attended the Chowder Chowdown. I was one of the blind taste test judges. And the Wickaninnish Inn won the Judges Award, and the Tofino Ucluelet Culinary Guild won the People's Choice Award. So that was great.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Do you know what the hours are for Art Splash?
10 to
10 to 4?
10 to 4? Okay. Perfect. I knew it ended at 4 because my friend is there now, and she was there until 4, she said. So, yeah. Okay. And I did want to just bring up one thing. I don't know if it has to be a notice of motion. Mr. Chow said I could just see what council's thoughts were about it. BICEDA, BCEDA, which is British Columbia Economic Development Association, is offering for new members a $150 discount from the annual fee, which would bring it down to $525. And they are also hosting their BC Economic Summit in May 11th to the 14th in Penticton, and they're offering again for new members $100 off this full summit registration. So I know Councillor Anderson and I have talked about it because we're doing a lot of we were with the chamber doing a lot of economic development stuff, and just looking for thoughts from council. Is this something that that appeals to any of you, all of you, none of you?
I could go, but I'd be super interested. I think that would be, I mean, it's at the very end of the term, but I'd be interested to learn more.
They do advocate to the higher levels of government. I'll read out their mission statement from their website. The British Columbia Economic Development Association is the lead association of economic development practitioners dedicated to providing services in support of its members, their professional development needs, activities, profile, and economic development goals. So do I put forward a motion, Mr. Chow?
Mayor, council can give direction to staff through unanimous vote, so consensus. So at least if mayor just ask if council comfortable with district crew registered membership and the registered interest council to attend the conference, and if around the council table no one objected, we will record the council's consensus in the meeting minutes. We can proceed. If any council object to it, then you need a formal motion.
Okay, I understand. And Mr. Cadman, would there be something in the budget to allow for this? Discretionary funds of some sort?
Yeah, we would be able to sort it out within our current budget cycle.
Okay, so
I got to comment if you don't mind. Honestly, I don't know what we're going to squeeze out of that. Personally, I'm not going to go. I haven't seen anything come back to this community from any economic development conferences that anybody's attended. I think we already have AVICC's coming upon us. I think there's probably another function that you guys are going to in Nanaimo soon, the Island Summit, and in Victoria. So again, as much as we just passed our budget, I would really branch out. What are we really going to get out of this conference? We'll have some short stories to tell to the rest of the group, but I just really I would be opposed to that, again, just because I don't think we're going there with any kind of direction or wants and needs. It's great to be part of something, but I think there's lots going on in the community, and I'm not going to discourage anybody from going there. I'll support what the group wants, but we really got to figure out what the squeeze and what the outcome of these conferences sometimes are, and because that exercise for one person to pick Penticton after flights is probably going to be a $5,000 exercise. So anyways, I just want to be financially prudent.
Thank you. And Councillor Mafty, you were somewhat interested.
I wouldn't object
Put your mic.
I wouldn't object getting more information. I mean, frankly, I doubt that I would go. I don't disagree with anything that Councillor Noel said, but I'm also not opposed to just getting a little bit more information, and I don't feel comfortable making that decision for anybody else. So even if I were not to go, I wouldn't want to stand in the way of somebody else going if they thought that it would be beneficial. So I'm casually interested.
Okay, Councillor Hoare. Oh my gosh.
Oh, geez.
That does not sound good.
You pointed our way.
This way. That's why Councillor Anderson's probably glad he's not here. I'm interested. I always enjoy the information that I pick up at conferences, but I understand that that's a chunk of expense. So I tend to try and be, my Irish grandmother may be like dominating today for obvious reasons, but my Scottish grandmother was very parsimonious. So I you know, I can understand belonging to the society. Maybe that's a totally worthwhile thing. I don't know whether sending one or more people to Penticton is a great idea. But
Okay, and Councillor Anderson has already discussed it with me and Mr. Harding. You're still interested, Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, I definitely hear what Councillor Noel is saying. And you know, it's one of those things you have to look at and figure out what the benefit is from this. And I agree that there has to be take homes. There has to be some sort of.
Just hold on one sec.
Anderson.
All our mics seem to have died.
Councillor Anderson.
Mine's dead. Oh, just a little bit there. Can you hear me, Councillor Anderson?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, go ahead. I think we're live again.
Yeah, I definitely hear what Councillor Noel is saying, and also the parsimonious side of Councillor Horare's Scottish ancestry. I get that. And when I took a look at it, and I think it's worth taking a look at it, like as far as being members and trying to figure out what they can do. They have a massive list of organizations that can help, whether that's, you know, BC Hydro, all the way down to, like, you know, individual investors that can come and put investments into the town. Like, there's quite a large number of groups, the BCDC, there's Northern Development, like I said, BC Hydro, Destination British Columbia. It's a massive list. Like Airbnb is there. So I think it's worth checking out at least once. And in my opinion, I think economic development for our town it's incredibly important to maintain that character of who we are. And I think otherwise, as much as I love tourism, I think if we don't foster some of the homegrown things that are moving in our direction, and we learn what tools we can use to manage those as they come, whether that's vessel electrification, which is already here, seaweed is going to be ramping up. Just how do we navigate those things? And we have to understand them, so we are being proactive and we're not reacting to those things. I think whatever tool we can use. I mean, there's a chance that we go to something and it turns out it's not for us. That's totally fine. I think we don't do it again. But I also agree with what Councillor Noel says, that there has to be some sort of deliverable. We don't just go to these things and sit there and, you know, nod our head. But I do think, from what I've read on their website, I won't know until we go, but from what I've read, I think that there is value here. I think that it behooves us to grab every tool that we can possibly take to boost what revenues we can for a municipality outside of tax, and to not just be completely reliant on tourism, or even take a side of what we can say is sustainable innovation and combine that with tourism. So people are actually coming out here to see how a small remote community actually does things correctly in terms of energy, in food sustainability, sovereignty, and also having the participation of our local First Nations combined on that. I think if we can find other communities that have done this correctly, then we can incorporate that into how we move forward. And that's my take on that. And what I wholeheartedly agree that there has to be, we have to come back with things that we can implement. And I think if we went once and it looks like it's not worth it, then we say, hey, you know, it's not for us. But from what I've read on the website so far, I think I would support the decision to do that. But that being said, with a full report when we get back about how it applies to us and what we could get out of it in the future and what we did get out of it by going to it.
Okay, thanks for that. And as part of their pitch for us to join, they've said that over 80% of local governments in British Columbia are members of BC EDA. So that would put us in the majority. And I know networking at these conferences is sometimes the best outcome, as opposed to just learning, which is always good. But the networking has definitely been something that's proven to be really valuable. So I will make a motion and take a vote on it. I'll move that council direct staff to obtain membership with BCEDA and register interested councillors for the 2026 BC Economic Summit.
I'll second that.
Councillor Noel seconds. Any further discussion?
No change for me. Again, I'm totally opposed to it. I think it's, I'm going to go back to the Vancouver Island that half of the councillors have gone to. Yes, we have electrification coming. That's not because any councillor networked and found somebody in a corner looking for a town to create it. So we're giving ourselves kudos for something we didn't do, or seaweed or whatever that is. Again, I think we need to be financially prudent. We just did a 6% tax increase. To think that we're going to come back with a couple of networking opportunities after spending $10,000 to $15,000, that's a false pretense. You guys can do what you need to do, but I think you need to look at yourselves and wonder what you've gotten out of some of the conferences and how much real work. When we talk about economic development, I just made a motion here tonight. I think there's more economic development trying to find 20 more daycare spots in the town so we can get people working in the community. Thinking that we need to find more things to do in our town and actually dilute our staff a little bit more with the false pretenses. We already get enough emails to our district inboxes, which 99 out of 100 have no use for how we lead our community. And I think that this is another prime example of something like that. So again, I would strongly encourage everyone to really look back at yourselves about, what is the squeeze out of these things and realize that you're going into rooms where there are no decision makers. We're going into rooms like this where we're dreaming. And I think we got to bring back, scale back some of our expectations. We've just been very, very fortunate with some of the investment that's come to town. It's not because any 5 of us have went out there to beg them to come. This is just because they've chosen to invest here.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed?
That's 21 here.
All right.
The hat trick.
So that carries then. We had 2 abstaining, actually.
Guys.
Yeah, I would rather have split that. I was fine with belonging to the group, but I don't like it.
It's all right. Okay, we're adjourned.
No, we're now moving on to question period.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for the public to ask questions and comment on matters within council's jurisdiction. Representations about bylaws that council is prohibited from holding a public hearing on or bylaws that were subject to a public hearing are not permitted at this time. There are no audience members. Are there any members of the public attending by Zoom or telephone that wish to address council?
No, there are not. Thank you, Mayor.
And have we received any emails to communityinput@ucluelet.ca during the meeting?
We have not.
All right, so now we are adjourned at 6:23. Thanks, Council.